Hello. Thank you for listening to Retold. I had to do it a little bit different because it's a different kind of episode.
That's okay.
I hope you guys enjoyed that sick new intro.
Yeah, very, very good.
Yeah, so that was made by Taylor, same guy that made the intro for our Harry Potter episode. That's your brother. So, guys, welcome to Retold, typically a Harry Potter podcast. But before I get into everything, I need to come off right away and say, our dog's being silly back there. I need to come up right away and just say, you do not need to worry. I'm going to still keep doing Harry Potter episodes every single week. That is the number one priority. However, we like other things. And my wife and I, we love anime. Mm-hmm. And we've been talking about this for a while. You might have heard it in a few different episodes, but we wanted to cover an anime on the podcast too and have that come out along with the Potter episodes each week. You might not get an anime episode every week.
Yeah, it's an interesting season of life we're about to enter.
Yeah. So Bailey's about to give birth to my heir.
Yeah.
And we will we'll see what happens. I'm hoping, my goal is that we can do this every other week. Mm-hmm. But we love anime so much. It is like my happy place is just sitting on the couch with my wife at the end of a work day, watching one of our shows together, and then the episode ends and it ended on something really good. And we're like, we got to play the next one. And those are my favorite moments.
And I take full credit because before we were dating, you were an anime skeptic.
No, that's not a skeptic, but I didn't watch much of it. Like I liked Naruto. I loved Naruto.
Well, you grew up watching Naruto, but you never even finished it.
Mm-hmm.
You never finished Shippuden and you didn't watch anything else. And I had to twist your arm to get you to watch Avatar: The Last Airbender.
And I'm very grateful. I'm very grateful.
And then you'll have to remind me the order in which we watched the shows. But I think that we were talking about this the other night. The three main ones that we attribute to solidifying your love for anime and our love for watching anime together, probably Inuyasha, Fairy Tail,
yes,
and
Full Metal
Alchemist, yeah, Brotherhood, of course.
Yeah. So yes, I had stopped watching anime for a while, but you got me back into it.
I did,
and
you're welcome.
It is probably the thing that we watch the most.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. I read Harry Potter a lot. I watch the movies a lot, but the
new stories.
Yeah, the new stories that we typically get into the most is anime. And so we just wanted to share that love here.
Yeah.
And so typically what I want to do, just so you guys kind of know, we're going to cover the show Frieren. If you haven't heard of it, it is this super amazing, super wonderful show. And it's fantasy based, so it's not
like Western fantasy too.
Yeah. And it's not too far a step away from Harry Potter in that it's incredibly it's a fantasy world. It has a lot of Lord of the Rings vibes, actually. So if you're into that type of thing at all, I do think this is right up your alley. I hope you've already watched Frieren. If you haven't, I honestly
stop listening.
Go
watch it.
It's my favorite show.
Yeah.
It's my favorite show that we've watched together. It is so good. And the reason I wanted to have this one be the first one we do on the podcast is because, one, like I said, it's very close to fantasy. It's a high fantasy show. But also, this show is just so special. It's wholesome. It's entertaining. The characters are great. And what I find amazing about this show, like I've told people, it's going to sound like sacrilegious at first, but it's a lot like the Bible in that I come away from these episodes wanting to be a better person.
Yes.
Like these episodes inspire me to be a better man. So I love this show. I want to share it with you guys. So I'll give you the quick pitch for what the show is. Essentially, this show is about an elf who, like it is the case in many high fantasy shows and movies and books, she can live forever. Elves, like Tolkien kind of started this, that elves they can't be
mortal.
They're not necessarily mortal. They can be killed, but they won't die of sickness or old age. Yeah. And so she's over 1,000 years old. The elf's name is Frieren, as the show is called.
She looks like late teens, early 20s, though. Like she.
Oh, I'd say 20. She doesn't give me like teenager vibes.
Well, no, she doesn't give teenager vibes, but
but she looks young.
She's very youthful.
Yeah. I just wanted to like nip that in the bud because of some other anime things.
She's not a child.
No, she's not at all. But so she can live forever. And as a result, she has stopped valuing human relationships. And a big theme of the show is about her learning to find value in the small things, to find value in relationships again, to find value in life and people. It's also cool that this show picks up right at the end of the great battle of this world. Mm-hmm. Picture like Lord of the Rings right after like the great climax and the ring is destroyed. Spoiler. Mm-hmm. But it's fascinating in that way, and it puts a lot of things on their head archetypically, but also, follows a lot of stuff. So anyway, that's my quick pitch. It's also, I know I'm making it sound, I guess, somewhat not exciting, but there are a lot of cool fights, battles, interesting moments, great animation, and we'll get into all that.
For sure.
But yeah, so that's the quick thing about Frieren. And so what we're going to do on this podcast is like this episode and the next Frieren episode are going to be season reviews. Mm-hmm. So I've taken notes on every single episode of season 1. Season 1 is 28 episodes. They're each like 20 something minutes long, 22 minutes. These 2 episodes are just, I guess, refreshers. If you watch season 1 or I haven't watched it in a while, this is to sort of remind you what happened in season 1 and kind of geek out about it again. When the season starts on season 2, on January 16th, we will do every other week and we will cover 2 episodes at a time. And it will be a lot like my episodes for my chapter coverages for Harry Potter, and that it will be a lot more in-depth. Because again, I'm covering 14 episodes in this particular episode, but in those other ones, it'll be much more in depth, and we'll get into the weeds about things. But this is just sort of a glance at the season as a whole. I had a fun time taking notes for this because I started trying to do what I do for Harry Potter coverages, just taking a whole lot of notes. And after episode 2, I was like, forget this. I gotta wind it down. So I'll have a little more detailed notes for episodes 1 and 2, but then we'll sort of get into a different flow after that.
Yeah. Well, and one of the joys about the show, and one of the things that I always tell people whenever I'm recommending it is, you watch the first episode once, you watch kind of the first few episodes the first time, and, there's a certain vibe. It may capture you in a certain way or whatever, but it's the revisiting of those early episodes upon a second watch, or, in this case, talking about it, where you really can appreciate it. Because the joke of the show is you watch the first episode the first time and you're like, oh, that was pretty neat. And then you rewatch it on a second watch and you're sobbing because it just hits different. You can contextualize it so much better.
Yeah.
And you really appreciate it. And it's almost like the first time you watch it, you are Frieren. You do not appreciate it. Whereas the second time through, it's like, just like how she's taking a second look at her past and things that have happened, you get to do the same thing, and it's more meaningful for you in hindsight in the same way.
Yeah, that's a really good take, because I remember my first time watching this, in episode 1 when Himmel dies in episode 1 of Old Age. I'm like, and Frieren's crying at the graveside, and I just think, oh, that's interesting that they started this way.
Yeah.
On the rewatch, you're crying with Frieren, like Himmel.
Yes.
And that is another interesting thing about this show, is that this was probably one of the most popular anime to come out a year or 2 ago. People loved it.
A
lot of awards. People thought it should have won Anime of the Year at the Crunchyroll Awards instead of Solo Leveling. And we liked that show too.
Sure.
But this one is much more in-depth and incredible. But a big reason a lot of people gave up on this show is because, they tried to watch it once, didn't get through the first 10 episodes, because the first 10 do feel like a slice of life and not action-packed. But goodness gracious, they are wrong. and I'll say this too.
They're proving the point.
I want to have a huge shout out to the Strictly Anime podcast, which is an anime podcast I really enjoy listening to. Husband and wife duo. They're incredible at what they do. In fact, this episode, when I try to recap the first half of season 1, is heavily inspired by the way they do their season recaps. But I remember when they first covered Frieren, they covered the first 10 episodes and then the next 10 and the last 8. In their first 10, the husband was like, I don't know about this. This is kind of like the episode 10 was cool because that's the Aura one, but I don't know. And then in the second episode that came out, it was wonderful. He was like, this is amazing. I love it. So yeah, anyway, without further ado, let's go ahead and hop into it. Frieren Beyond Journey's End, that's the English title, or the Japanese title, when it's translated, one of two things typically: Frieren at the funeral or Frieren the Slayer. Both really sick titles. If you've watched the show, it makes sense. And again, we're going to kind of cover this like you've had I'm hoping that you've watched this already, and so you kind of get some of the things. If not, I guess thank you for listening, like liking me enough to listen to it anyway. Yeah. But another thing to note is based on the anime created by, and I'm going to try to say this right, Kamihito Yamada. Bailey's trying to read my handwriting. Sorry. Yep. I mean, that might be Kanehito. I've messed up. I'm so sorry. I will do this right in our next episode.
Wow.
And it's illustrated by Tsukasa Abe. I remember that one.
Okay.
And the anime started coming out September 2023, had 28 episodes, and was animated by Madhouse. And Madhouse is the same studio that does Trigun, Black Lagoon, Death Note, and the first season of One Punch Man.
That's an important thing to know.
Important to know. I was literally about to say that. And then at the end of the episode, we'll talk about the opening and the ending. But anyway, let's get into it.
We're talking about the opening and the ending.
Especially the ending. We love the ending.
Yes.
So anyway, episode 1, The Journey's End. Genius opening.
Yes.
As I've already stated. I remember watching this for the first time by myself when we were on vacation. You were asleep in the bedroom and I was in the living room just watching it quietly on Crunchyroll. And I saw this opening and it was so interesting. But it's Frieren and her party consisting of Himmel the hero, Heiter the priest, and Aizen the warrior return from defeating the Demon King. So
just in case you weren't clear.
Yeah.
Who the bad guy was.
Yeah. I think that's what they call the guy in Zelda. What's his name?
I don't know.
Garrick? No, it's...
I don't know.
Ganondorf.
Okay.
He's the Demon King. But they're all riding in a wagon and just chit-chatting about the journey that they've been on and what they'll do when they get back. So anyway, they go into the town and there's a wonderful parade and festival thrown in their honor. We flash forward to that night and the gang is reminiscing on the beginning of their trip together and how they almost didn't even make it out of the city at first. Do you remember why, Bailey?
Because they offended the king.
They offended the king and he almost beheaded them. Yep. Fun fact, in the anime, they are seen about to be beheaded by a sword, but in the manga, it's a guillotine.
Nice.
So that's a nice little change. But anyway, they all say crazy long adventure. That was pretty cool. But Frieren's like, long? It was just 10 years, which everybody goes, what? And again, she's an elf. She can live forever. This is the theme of the show. Aizen encourages her to get an apprentice. And, when she says, it won't matter, they'll just die. So what's the point? And Aizen says, that's not how relationships work. Aizen's a very wise dwarf. They watch the meteor shower, and Frieren says, this view stinks. Everybody's like, what are you talking about? It's beautiful. And she goes, you know what? 50 years from now.
When the meteor shower happens again.
When the meteor shower happens again, let's all meet up again, and I'll show you a better view. And Himmel, he's excited. He's like, I'll mark it in my calendar.
Yeah. He's like, it's a date.
It's a date. Next day, they go their separate ways. We get the first montage of the series, and this show kills it at montages.
Oh, yes.
There's so many shows that do a bad job of montages, but they do such a wonderful job at putting so much information and life and just cool vibes into their montages.
Very dynamic.
Yes. And the
no
music.
Narration needed.
No narration. We should also note that the music in every episode is killer. My wife, my wife, Evan Call. No, my wife found the composer, Evan Call, and has a playlist of his stuff.
I always listen to it whenever I'm doing my own creative writing because it's so good. It's like, this is why it's called music, because it's like the muses.
It has a French horn.
And he makes fun of me. I get really excited about instruments.
When the French horn comes in, it's a banger moment in the show.
Yeah.
So 50 years go by, and Frieren wants her shadow dragon's horn from Himmel. And I love the flashback where Himmel's like, is this safe to hold? But she remembers, oh yeah, I should also go check in on them because the meteor shower is about to happen. So she goes to the capital city, and who does she run into? It's Lil Himmel.
Yep.
And he has also changed. He is no longer the boyish, charming young hero he once was. He's now a very old, very short, bald, bearded man. But they walk around together. He takes her to his house. And I love, like, he kept the horn at his house. And she goes, you could have just stored this in a safe house somewhere. And he said, like, a treasured friend gave me this. I was going to make sure that it was kept safe. Oh, that's the first hint that, like, we love Himmel. So they meet up with Heiter, who is now a bishop in the Holy City. He's basically, like, close to being pope now or something. And Eisen, he hasn't changed much, though. Dwarves also take a long time to
age slower. So
it's a week's journey away to the site that Frieren wants to take them to. We also get another sick montage of them journeying, traveling along, fighting monsters, having fun, eating food. And then when they are watching the meteor shower, finally, we get to see it through Himmel's eyes, and we hear his voice say, like, he thanks Frieren for giving this old hero one final adventure. And it's beautiful. But then the next scene is Himmel's funeral. And at Himmel's funeral in the church, I think I read that actually it's Heiter's church, or at least he's hosting the funeral. And Frieren's kind of just sitting there standing there nonchalant, not much emotion on her. And people start talking trash. We can hear them in the background about Frieren. And I love this moment because you can tell she's actually kind of like hurt.
I love this moment too.
And the boys come to her aid. Heiter and Eisen are like, look at us. You don't see us crying or anything, check. And they're waving and smiling. Yeah. And everybody's like so disgraceful, but they're just like laughing.
Throwing things at them. But they're just laughing.
Like, we actually were his friends. What are you talking about? So they go to the funeral. They go to the graveside, and she does eventually cry there. And I love her line that she says something like, 10 years was way too short a time to get to know him. And she's in tears. And I love that Heiter is patting her head. And she goes, my head is not for patting, even through her tears.
That's a recurring sort of behavior that we see people do.
Yeah. 20 years go by, and Frieren stops at the Holy City to see Heiter because she said that she would check in on him, asks if there's anything she can do for him. And he asks her to take care of and train Fern, to take Fern along with her on her journeys. And so Fern is this adopted daughter. She was like a war orphan that he found and saved her from attempting to jump off a cliff. But Fern, and we love Fern, but Frieren says no, that Fern would just get in the way. And it's not a mean no. She's like, she kind of says it mean, but her heart is that she doesn't want to put a young mage in danger, and that Fern isn't a true mage. So, and that's the key line, not a proper mage. And so she won't take her along.
She's like 6.
Yeah, she's a little girl. He says, well, in that case, can you translate this book on immortality for me? And she's like, sure.
Why are you interested in immortality, Mr. Priest?
Yeah, and I love that he goes, earlier when I said I didn't care about dying, as I get closer, I am kind of starting to care more. But Frieren says it will take 5 years in order to translate all of the grimoire. And he's like, crazy. Anyway, while you're doing that, can you, do you mind, just if you could, train Fern while you're doing it?
Just a little.
Just a little bit, that'd be sick. She goes, fine, I'll help her out I'll help her study. So Fern, she's outside and she's trying to bust a rock. And Fern's whole plot line through this episode is Heiter told her that if she could ever bust a hole through this rock on another side of a canyon with magic, then she would be a proper mage. And that's the end of episode 1. Yay!
Yeah.
So
I do like also, it didn't come up, but when Frieren is visiting Himmel and he's old and she's seeing him old for the first time, and they were like about to go run an errand or something, he's like dolling himself up. His hair, and he's like checking his mustache and all that. And
he says something.
Yeah, he does. And one of the things about him is that he was always kind of vain. And like he's very proud of his handsome face and all that. And so it's just funny that even though he did not age very gracefully, he's still doing that. So
I think he says something like, we old men have our peculiarities.
I think that's exactly what he says. Yes.
Yeah.
So I like that.
Me too. So like I said, we took a longer time on episode 1, but it'll start to get quicker as we go. But I'm having fun. Listeners, you're having fun. Wife.
I'm good.
Yeah. Episode 2.
The baby has hiccups right now, so I'm just
Baby. Episode 2, it didn't have to be magic. Frieren begins training Fern, and she's like, dang, this girl shows some real promise. She has great control of her magic. 4 years go by, and Frieren is training Fern every day, deciphering the grimoire that Heiter gave her. And one day he collapses because he's just getting too dang old. Frieren tells Fern that she should probably stop training so that, she can spend some time with Heiter before he dies. But Fern says, heck no. Like, she owes it to Heiter to be able to become a proper mage. She's like, he took me in. The least I can do is make a skill for myself so that he won't have to worry about me when he goes. And we get a flashback to when Heiter stopped her from, attempting to jump off the cliff as a child. She had just lost her family because of the war. And this is a great scene. I love that scene when Heiter is sitting there and he basically says, like, don't end your life. That would be such a waste. Like, it's important that you carry on the memories of your family and carry those forward in yourself and extend what they taught you to others. And I love the moment where, he references Himmel and he says that even though the world would have been better served, he didn't say it exactly like this, but essentially the world would have been better served if Himmel had been the one to survive. He'll still do what he can in Himmel's stead. Like he said a long time ago, I had a really good friend who he would have saved you. And we'd all been better off if he was still here, but I'll do what I can without him. Mm-hmm. And I love that. I love that moment. Frieren finally deciphers the grimoire. I wrote LOL, Heiter tricked her. And I loved when I realized that the whole point of this was to just get her to stay
long enough
to train Fern. And because Heiter, she throws it on his chest because he's laying in the bed, kind of decrepit. She's like, there's nothing in here. And he goes, yeah, I kind of figured. What do you mean? Well, if this guy who wrote the grimoire had the secret to immortality, I think he'd still be here.
Yeah.
That was a funny line. I love that. But Heiter tells her to get on out of there and take Fern with her because, I don't think I wrote it down, but Fern did finally blast the hole in the rock. Mm-hmm. But Frieren says, no, we're staying because you owe Fern a goodbye. Like, don't just kick us out. You need to talk to that girl. And it's this lovely scene of them chatting just whenever Fern finally does come in because she's smiling, even though he's on death's doorstep and they're just chit-chatting. I love it. Eventually, Heiter does die, though. Frieren and Fern pour some alcohol on his grave. She says, so long, corrupt priest. She pours 2 bottles on his grave.
Yeah.
Fern and Frieren begin their travels, and they travel around doing odd jobs here and there. We learn, very important listeners, that Frieren loves lil spells. Things that get rust off of statues or turn sweet grapes sour. Like, she just loves collecting odd little spells, and we'll learn why later.
And it almost seems a little out of character for her at that point as far as what you're used to, because she seems very dutiful and focused on...
Serious.
Yeah, serious, focused on things that from her perspective are purposeful. But a lot of these spells are just completely random and like 1 in a million circumstances would be somewhat useful. So it is one of her first quirks that we kind of encounter.
So she likes just little spells. Eventually they stop in one town where an old lady asks them to clean a statue of Himmel and spruce up the area with some flowers. We get a short 6-month montage of Frieren trying to find the flowers that grew in Himmel's hometown because Himmel told her that these like blue flowers, I forget what they were called, but they grew in his village. And Frieren was like, it would be perfect if we planted those there. But in order to do it, they have to see the flowers. They spend 6 months trying to find it. Eventually, Fern is ticked off that Frieren is wasting time. She's like, kind of as you were saying earlier, she's very dutiful. She's also a super powerful mage. And Fern is like, she shouldn't be wasting her time trying to find flowers. She could help people. And the old lady at the town that they're staying with, I do like this moment. She tells Fern, hey, time moves differently for her, but she's still a mature grown-up. I'm sure if you talk to her, let her know how you feel. She has enough emotional maturity to understand that, and I think that'll be good for you guys to hash it out. So I love that moment. So Frieren and Fern talk to one another, and Frieren's like, girl, I get it. You're completely right. We'll head out of here soon. And Fern goes, what do you mean soon? But in this moment, That's when Frieren, tells her, shh, because the little seed squirrels or seed rats, whatever they are crawling around, and they run off and they follow the seed rat, and it takes them to this tower where the blue flowers are growing. And it's beautiful. It's a wonderful, awesome scene. The magic hits hard, the music hits hard. And so, and they find the flowers. We also get a flashback of Frieren being praised by Himmel. I wrote down, I loved that line. Oh, yeah. Because we're like, why did she choose magic? Why does she like collecting little spells? I told you it'd be important. It's because she says, it was just something that an idiot praised me for. An idiot saw me doing these silly little spells one time, and he thought it was amazing. And we get the flashback of said idiot, and it's Himmel and everybody else like playing in the flowers, but Himmel is just starstruck by her.
Doesn't he put a flower crown on her?
He puts a flower crown on her. But I love that. Just that line of it's something somebody praised me for. Mm-hmm. And that makes me think of, like, for me personally, one of the reasons I became a preacher, like I felt called to preach, but also one of the reasons I pursued public speaking was in 7th grade, after we had an oral presentation in class, my English teacher told me, wow, you are a really good public speaker. Mm-hmm. And I'm just a little middle school boy. And I was like, you mean it? Yeah. She's like, yeah, you could be somebody with this. Aww. And that's all it took. And I was like, maybe I should do something with this. So I love that moment a lot. But yeah, that's the end of the episode. Yay. So that's all I have for episode 2. You ready for episode 3?
Yep.
All right, let's hop in. We're trying to fly through it, listeners. We're going to start picking up the pace. Oh, that title of the episode is Killing Magic, also known as Birthday Shopping and Demon Killing.
Yep.
So, and again, what you'll see, listeners, is this trend of a lot of these episodes are split into 2 parts. They usually covered 2 chapters of the manga, but part 1 of this is like Frieren shopping for Fern, getting her a birthday present. So in this episode, they stop in a town, and Frieren is like, okay, Fern, you go shopping, get our supplies. I got stuff to do. And Fern thinks that's a bit suspicious. So she follows Frieren around for a bit. At first, she's upset because she sees Frieren buying jewelry, like looking at jewelry, struggling to pick out something.
Money.
Yeah, she's like, we don't have the funds for that. She also follows Frieren to a bar where Frieren asks the locals about where to get sweets. And that's a really funny scene because Frieren goes, anybody know where I can get some nice sweet treats? And this band of ragamuffins of ne'er-do-well looking people are like, you want to know where to get sweets? Well, we'll tell you. There's actually this really nice shop down the road. That's a funny moment. But Fern soon discovers that Frieren was doing all this because it's her birthday. Frieren had even been saving up secretly to buy Fern a gift. So while they're at Fern's birthday dinner at the place the locals recommended, we get another awesome flashback of the heroes' party eating dinner together, and Himmel guesses what Frieren wants to eat. And she guesses correctly, and Frieren says, how'd you know that? And he was like, we've been together for long enough time that, I kind of just learned what you're like. To which Frieren says, I don't people well. I don't feel like I know y'all as much. And I love that Himmel, in this moment, he's not upset. He just says, well, like, that's our fault. We should share more. We should, if we want to get to know each other, we should tell you what we're like and the things we enjoy. And they all share what they like to eat the most. It's just a very mature lesson about relationships and sharing with others. Frieren gives Fern her hair ornament as a gift, a little butterfly one. You guys know what I'm talking about. Fern loves it and is just tickled that Frieren is trying. Because she says, I'm more like flattered that you're just trying to get to know me better and you're caring about me like this.
Well, and it was also pointed out that Frieren had been secretly saving up money ahead of time in order to be able to do it. So it was proactively thought ahead on her part. It wasn't just like a chore or whatever.
So they travel along again, and Frieren teaches Fern how to be awesome at defensive magic, teaches her to conserve her mana, don't create a huge, big, protective barrier, just these tiny little ones wherever the spell's going to hit you. We get to the village where Qual is sealed, and Qual was one of the great mages of corruption, a leader in the Demon King's army. He's a big deal because he's the guy who created Zolchok, which is the piercing spell and the OG attack magic that blasts people.
Basically like what the human equivalent of the inventor of a gun.
Yeah, like an AR or something.
Yeah.
Prior to the events of the story, the hero's party tried to defeat him. I think it was like 80 years ago. Yeah, 80-something years ago. But they were unable to defeat him, and they were almost killed by him. So they decided to seal him away in kind of like a statue
style in Skyrim.
Oh,
yeah, it's like, we can't deal with this right now, so we're just gonna make this a future problem.
Let's put a pin in it. Put a pin in it. And I already mentioned the Zoltalk thing. Anyway, to say it quickly, Frieren and Fern undo the seal on him, and Fern tests out her new and awesome defensive magic, and it gives Frieren an opening to kill Qual. They go back to the village, and everybody thanks them. And that's the episode. Yay!
Yeah.
Okay, so some things to point out about. This is, at this point, listeners, I made quicker notes, but kind of how we'll cover it now is
just talking about the things that we really liked.
That we liked about each episode. I'll quickly summarize it and talk about it at the end of each episode. So 2 things I really liked. 1, I loved the advancement of time lesson in this episode. So when Frieren unseals Qual, he's like, I'm the biggest, baddest dude around. I know I created Zoltalk. That's my spell. But Frieren makes the point, hey, 80 years have gone by since. We've kind of studied this for a while, and time's moved on.
Yeah, that's something about humans.
Yeah.
Is that they evolve over time. Demons or maybe even elves, it's like because of their immortality,
they're not as quick with it.
Yeah, it's like it takes longer for them to mature and change. And humans are like changing all the time. So they're quicker on the uptake.
The other thing I liked, I wrote down Himmel's diss, but trust in Frieren. So what I mean by that is, this is the town every year Himmel came by to check on the seal, make sure it was good. And he kind of mentioned like, yeah, Frieren's kind of cold and heartless, but she still won't abandon you. Because everybody in the town sort of rejoices that like Himmel's promise came true. But something Fern points out is, well, Himmel's promise came true because he trusted you. That's what the promise, that was the power of the promise, was that it was trust in you, and you came through, Frieren.
Yep.
So I love that.
He knew her so well.
Yeah. Episode 4, The Land Where Souls Rest. The first half of this episode is Fern and Frieren stopping at a village for a few months, and they are given the job of cleaning up the harbor, because this town has this super beautiful harbor that is unfortunately littered with trash and the wreckage of a bunch of ships. But it's important that they clean up the harbor before the new year so the village can have their little sunrise festival on the new year. It's real like video game side quest.
Yeah.
But some things that happened that I really liked in this first half of the episode. 1, Frieren accepts a fake grimoire, supposedly from Flamme, the great mage. Most of those, she notes that most of those are fake, but she does take the job anyway because that's what Himmel would have done. And that, I love that became a slogan in Japan for a while.
What would Himmel do instead of what would Jesus do?
Essentially. So, and the other thing is, this is when we learn that Frieren sleeps in, and this was like, she has a hard time getting up all the time, and this was a big issue for the hero's party. We even see moments of like Heiter getting furious with her. Number 3, waking up for the New Year sunrise is something Frieren really wants to do, because apparently during the hero's journey years ago, they were at this town, and Frieren said she was going to go to it then, but she slept in, and it made Heiter cry. I love that scene when Himmel was like, it was a big deal, and you missed. It was one of the few moments we actually see Himmel kind of like
scold her. Really,
yeah. He's like, it was a big deal. Look, Heiter's even crying. That's how upset he is. But Frieren wants to do it this time to see what she misses, and Fern ends up waking her up. And Frieren's realization is so precious. So in this moment, Frieren's watching the sunrise. She's like, "It's not that cool.
Kind of mid.
Yeah, it's pretty mid." But she looks over at Fern. And Fern's eyes are just, it's like a kid at Disney World. Fern's like, it's beautiful, Mistress Frieren, or Miss Frieren. And Frieren goes, yeah, it really is.
Yeah, just realizing that that's the point. It's not the sunrise itself. It's the community element of doing something like that with somebody else.
It's beautiful.
Yeah.
So the second half of this episode is they go to meet Eisen at his home. Eisen, the dwarf, we talked about him. Frieren says, hey, wanted to check in, ask if I could help you with anything like I did for Heiter. Eisen said that he has heard that one of Flamma's books, one of her grimoires, is somewhere near. near in the forest where he lives. So Frieren agrees, and they search the woods. Luckily, Frieren knows where to look because Flamma was actually her master. And that's like a big deal to learn because that was over 1,000 years ago.
Yeah, like we've been hearing about this legendary mage. And she's just been like, yeah, no, I think this grimoire is a fake. But you don't realize.
That's my teacher's handwriting.
Yeah.
That's my adopted mom's handwriting.
For real. She is a human, by the way. Or
yeah,
she was.
Flamma was a human. So eventually they do find the book. It isn't a fake, and it actually contains info on how and where to talk to the dead. Apparently Flamma went to this place called Ende, or Inde. Listeners, there's a few words I don't know, but Ende, in the far north of the continent where souls walk around just like ghosts. And Ison wanted Frieren to find this book because he and Heiter thought that she had some unfinished business with Himmel and needed to talk to him again. They kind of had an idea that this book might be about that. So with that, Frieren decides that they're going to go to Ende. And Bailey, do you know what that is? Sorry, do you know where that is? That's where the Demon King's castle is, like all those years ago.
Yeah.
So essentially, they got to retrace the steps of the heroes party, and it will probably take 10 years, just 10 short years. And that's the episode. Yay! So, one, I love that heaven, because that's what they end up calling this place, and is heaven, where souls walk around. Heaven is basically the MacGuffin of the story. You know, oftentimes they're asked, where are you guys trying to go? And they go, heaven.
Yeah.
Trying to make it to heaven.
And everyone's always so nonchalant about hearing it. They're like, yeah, okay.
The other thing that I really liked in this episode was the flashback where they talk about, the heroes party talks about whether heaven exists or not. You know, Heiter's praying and they're like, I think it's Ison who says he doesn't believe in heaven. And Heiter goes, I do. It's more convenient that way.
Yeah.
And like that's just their reasoning. It's like, it's just kind of convenient that it does exist for us, which like we are Christians, people of faith. And so we obviously, you know, believe in God and the afterlife and all that. But that was just it was a sweet little way of conceptualizing it, you know, and I believe in heaven for more reasons than that, but I like the simplicity of that.
The unapologetic, this is a selfish reason to believe in it.
Perhaps in some ways, but I can also view it more than that. Like, you know, it's more convenient. It provides much more eternal meaning and all these other things. But yeah, I don't want to expound too much because we're like, this can be a long episode, but I do love that moment a lot.
What is the name of the something bargain of like, you have nothing to lose?
Yeah, that's
it makes me think of that.
Oh, that's called the Pascal's Wager.
Pascal's Wager. Yeah, it's like, well, you might as well believe in God because, you know, if you're right, well, then you get heaven when you die. And if you're wrong, well, then you won't know the difference. So you have nothing to lose, basically. And it's like that kind of idea, which, you know, it's not the most theologically sophisticated reason by any means, but it's like, it's
cute yet powerful.
It's cute. It's like childlike, you know?
So anyway, moving on now to episode 5, Phantoms of the Dead. This is another 2-parter. So in the first half of this episode, they leave Ison's place and journey to where Ison's apprentice is because they need a warrior to join their party. On the way, though, they stop at a town like usual, and they meet some villagers who warn them about ghosts appearing in the mountain pass. And people going missing. Frieren tells Fern that is probably not a ghost, though, and it's a monster known as an Einsam. These are creatures who can access your memories and create illusions of your relatives and loved ones and lure you in that way. Frieren and Fern do come across them and are able to defeat them. So let's talk about this.
Yeah, this is probably top 3 moments for me in this half of the season. I mean, Fern has her own. She faces hers first.
Yeah. So the thing to make note of before we talk about the fight with the ghosts is there's a flashback prior to this where Fern thinks about a moment with Heiter, and Heiter is sick in bed, and Heiter says, "You better be a good girl, or I'll come back and haunt you." And she goes, "But I want to see you." Should I just like misbehave then? And he goes, "You clever little girl. All right, how about this? I will, if you behave, then I'll come back and haunt you." And so that's like the setup for this moment.
So yeah, Fern she sees her own ghost opponent first, and of course it's Hyder. If you want to describe how that interaction
it's cool because it's Hyder. Again, these ghosts access your memories, appear somebody you love, lure you in, kill you. And this ghost makes Fern see Hyder, and he's
he
like,
references that, and
he says,
surprise.
You really have he says something like, you've really grown. You are a good and proper mage now, which is something she always wanted to be in his presence. Like, I don't need to worry about you anymore.
So it's not just that the ghost knows what he looks like. It's like, no, this is a reference to a shared memory of theirs that no one else would know.
And Fern is unable to kill it. Like, at first, she's not able to do anything. So Frieren, she's over on the side, and she's like, I'm going to have to pull out the gat. She, like, whips out her wand or her staff, and she's about to blast. But then she sees Himmel. Himmel appears behind her. And it's interesting because she was like, I would have thought that it would have been Flamma, like last time.
Her mage. And then I'm sure you agree. One of the best scenes. You're waiting to see what Himmel is going to say to try to convince her to, I guess, not kill it. And so the ghost disguised as Himmel, all he says to her is shoot. Go ahead and shoot. And her response is also great. She's like, how clever. That's exactly what Himmel would say.
And then she blasts
and then
him.
She just kills it.
Yeah.
But it's so good because it's like, you just don't expect it.
And then when she blasts him, that clears the mist, and Fern is able to see the ghost, the actual real figure of the monster in the mist above, and then she's able to take care of her creature. So the second half of this episode is them traveling to the Regal Canyon to find the village where Stark, Ison's apprentice, is. They run across a solar dragon, try to kill it, but they can't. So they go to the village, find Stark, and everyone there loves him because he fought off the dragon once and saved them. Frieren asks him to help them kill the dragon, and he says he just might. And the episode ends with Frieren going to bed, but Stark's training while Fern watches him. Yep. So a few of the things I loved in this portion of the episode, I love them running away from the dragon. Like when they come across it, they try to shoot it, and the dragon's like, what the heck? And he chases them. And then whenever they get away, Frieren goes, well, let's try to get it again. And Fern grabs her and goes, please no.
Yeah.
It's a funny moment. I also liked the twist of Stark is actually a coward.
Yeah. And
everybody
it was just
thinks
a coincidence.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because the villagers love him because the dragon showed up once, attacked, and then ran away when it confronted Stark. But Stark just confesses to them,
I had nothing to do with that. I don't know why I did that.
I think he just spared me on a whim.
Or his interpretation of it, I guess we should say.
Yeah, that's what it is.
The dragon did not regard him at all, and that it just basically ignored him. But he still kind of stayed in the village and kept playing this role. And it's funny because even though he was secretly a coward and he's like got this guilt about being a phony, he is affecting real change in the village in a way that is actually helpful to others.
Yeah, like he's a servant. He's helpful and all that.
Right. And maybe he does it out of guilt, but it doesn't really come off that way either. It's like he does it.
Well, one thing we learn about Stark is that he genuinely cares about people. He's kind and selfless, although he is a bit of a scaredy cat.
Yeah.
Episode 6.
It's not annoying, though. It's not annoying.
No, that's another thing. I love that about him. A lot of times the coward in anime is an annoying figure.
Yeah, like Zenitsu.
But I do like Stark. Episode 6, the hero of the village. It's another two-parter. In part 1, Fern approaches Stark the night before the dragon fight and encourages him. And the next day, Stark shows up last minute before they fight the dragon. Good Stark stuff here. We learn that even though he is scared, he knows he has to protect the villagers. There's that moment where he says, like, I have to. I've been here for 3 years. And Frieren says, not that long at all. He's like, what are you talking about?
Yes, long.
So the fight ensues. And so
all that she asks him to do is just distract the dragon for like 30 seconds or something. So she sets up like kind of a low bar. She's like, I don't need you to kill the dragon. I just need you to distract it for 30 seconds so that we can do what we need to do.
Yeah. She says Frieren's good at getting a little out of people so that they can see how much is actually in themselves.
Yeah.
So the fight ensues, and turns out Stark didn't need Frieren or Fern at all.
Yeah.
He takes care of the dragon himself.
And the animation during that.
Oh, we'll talk about that.
So good.
We'll talk about that. And then they loot the dragon's hoard, and Stark says he'll go with them on their journey.
Mm-hmm.
So things to note about this first part. Fern's memory of fighting for the first time. If you remember that, that's when she goes to Stark in the middle of the night to encourage him. She flashes back to that moment, tells him about it. And it's like that super creepy, like mud looking spider monster chasing her. She's like, Frieren wouldn't show up and help me. And when my back was finally against a wall and I stole my resolve, turns out
something just clicked.
I could do it.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so that I loved that moment. But that monster was scary as frick.
Well, and I also really like, if I'm remembering correctly, the way that scene was directed, the flashback. It was like she's running from this monster, running and running and running. And then all of a sudden, the camera, for lack of a better, the animators, I think it's just her legs and her feet that it shows for a second. And then it like slows down and it's just her like stopping the sprint and turning around. And like this almost unconscious expression takes over her face. And it really is like something clicks and she just gets into the business mindset.
Training has led you to this point.
Yep.
The dragon fight, gorgeous. Just gorgeous, as you said. So one thing I've noticed is when people talk about this show and I see reels and shorts of them saying the animation in this show is also incredible, this is the scene they show of Stark riding, like holding on to the dragon and his jacket's fluttering behind him.
The momentum of his body. It's just like the amount of care that they put into actually aligning with physics of how it would look if someone were to do it.
Yeah, I also love just like the deep reds.
Yeah.
The reds.
His color is red. The dragon was red.
We're looking at a picture of him right now.
Yeah.
It's sick. So I love that part of it. Also, during the fight, Frieren flashes back. We'll say that a lot. We already have, but to Ison shaking before a fight. She's like, he shakes just like Ison does. And Ison, it's basically like, yeah, I'm afraid. I'd be a fool not to be, but also the courageous part of going to fight anyway.
Yeah.
And I love the line when Stark is whooping the dragon. Fern's like, daggum, look at him go. I didn't think he could do all that. And Frieren's like, there's a reason that dragon hasn't attacked for 3 years. Dragons are not stupid creatures. They will not challenge a strong foe unprovoked.
Yeah.
And it's a really cool line. And
so he really was the protector of the village this whole time, even though he didn't see himself that way.
He didn't see himself that way. We also learn, Stark has this scar on his head. At one point, he even tried to say that he got it from fighting the dragon. Frieren was like, bullcrap. That's not how you got that. But the way he got it was because Ison hit him during training. And Ison explains in a flashback, like...
To Frieren.
Listen, this kid's got stuff.
Yeah.
Honestly, when I was training him, I hit him. And I didn't hit him because I was mad at him. I hit him because I was afraid. Like my body acted on... It's a very anime language right here. So if you're not used to anime, this is the kind of stuff that happens. But like my body acted on instinct because it like recognized what a powerful guy Stark is. So basically Stark is pretty sick with it. And then at the end of it, I love this. Again, even through all the fighting and epic moments of this show, they do have some pretty sick, sweet little moments. And this one where Stark says, you did all this for a grimoire? Like, that's it? That's kind of dumb. And, we get Frieren's line of, an idiot praised me for my magic, so I like grimoires. But also, it shows Frieren using a spell to make a snow cone.
Yeah.
Like, she's making the snow cone for Heiter, and he's like, this is so cool. And at one point he goes, do you have any syrup, though?
She's like, no.
I haven't learned that spell yet. But in that flashback, what is said is, like, Ison is critiquing it and saying, how, like, pitiful is this? This is just, he says deplorable is the word. And Himmel goes, I don't think so. Like, this is something to make everything fun. Don't you want to have fun on your journey? Don't you want this? Why always be all business when you could have fun? Let's have a good time here. And Stark even notes, Ison said that when y'all traveled, Frieren, you often made it fun for everybody. And that's a cool little moment. So part 2 of the episode, a lot less to say here. They go to a town that is like a border town. They need to pass through a gate there to let them through to the northern lands because the north is so dangerous that the military in the town won't let anyone through, not even like merchants and trade. Frieren says that they can wait, but Fern and Stark are like, we can't, we're humans. We're not elves. So they spend time trying to find a way through. It doesn't matter though, because at the end of the episode, Frieren is later recognized by the Castellan of the town. And he's like, my bad. You're famous. You can go on through.
Right.
And we get that cool like flashback of them being like, oh, this must have been how it was whenever you guys left before. And there's like confetti falling. So two things that I like from this part. The first, Stark wanting to make memories for his master. So Fern says, why are you so determined to move forward? Mm-hmm. Stark says, like, it was an interesting moment because I thought Stark and Ison were on good terms because of how they parted. But Stark really looks up to Ison and he says, like, my master told me so many awesome stories and now he can't travel anymore. He can't do this stuff. I want to go out, make memories for him, have adventures, and share my stories with him. And that's beautiful. I love that. And the memory of them going through for the first time. I like that with the confetti falling. Anyway, we're booking it now, listeners. Episode 7, Like a Fairy Tale. Again, 2 parts. Part 1 opens with Frieren and the heroes party looking at a book from Flamma. Frieren says it's the best imitation she's ever seen. And I love Heiter's line of, when you see the fake so much, you start to question if the real thing ever existed. Deep. Anyway, Frieren wakes up early and Fern is like, she deserves a reward for this. This is a huge deal, and is massaging her and all that. They travel, help a man across a pass that was messed up by an avalanche. Fern's kind of mean to Stark there. You know, he goes, you don't have to use honorifics when talking to me. And he says, like, you don't have to be as respectful. And she starts trash talking him instead. And he's like, never mind.
Yeah.
They make it to the man's town, and guess what? It's perfect timing because they're about to celebrate the Liberation Festival. And that's to commemorate when 80 years ago, Frieren's squad saved them from demons. The gang looks at some statues that the town made of a hero's party, and Frieren wonders how long this festival will last into the future. You know, there's that scene where she's like, 10 years, 50 years, 1,000 years? And the guy's like, dang, I don't know, maybe. Yeah. She also has a flashback to when the statues were made.
Himmel.
Yeah.
Again, Himmel's like very vain. I'll go ahead and say one of my favorite things while I'm thinking about it. When they were modeling for the statue, it took so long and it was really annoying for the sculptor because Himmel kept changing his position because he wanted to make sure that he was as handsome as possible. And yeah, so he's just overly vain.
I love those moments, but it's in this episode we realize that that's not without reason, you know, because that scene is in episode 2, I believe, when they're when they see the first statue of Himmel.
Oh, okay.
But that's all right. But in this one, Himmel's doing something similar, trying to find the best pose. And I love him being silly and then him going, okay, but like the real reason for this is so that, you know, we're more than just a fairy tale. Like people actually see our statues, and so that when we're long gone, Frieren, you'll remember us. You'll have something you won't feel so lonely. Yeah. And that's something Himmel is even now, like even then was concerned about, was that one day when they're gone, the people that she made awesome memories with won't be there anymore. He's like, I don't want you to feel lonely. We love Himmel.
What a guy.
Part 2, my note is demons are deceptive.
Yeah.
So this is the beginning of Aura the Guillotine arc. Love this. They make it to a town and they're walking around all peacefully when all of a sudden Frieren pulls out that thing. She pulls out the staff because she senses the demons are about to walk around the corner and she wants to kill them. However,
she's like stone cold face.
Yes. Because like Fern and Stark are like, what's going on? And she's not even answering them. Yeah. But they're peace envoys. Guards tackle her. She's arrested. We learn that the town and the nearby demons who serve under Aura the Guillotine have been at war for a long time, and they are seemingly trying to put an end to hostilities. Frieren goes to jail, and Fern and Stark show up, tell her, don't be racist. And she says, y'all don't get it. We get a tragic story about this demon kid who, long story short, tricks the village chief into like taking him in, sparing her, and then I don't know if it's a boy or girl demon, but
I think it's a girl.
Yeah. But she ends up killing the chief's daughter. But in the demon kid's mind, they think, oh, this will replace the child that the other couple lost. So it's awful. And it's a wild memory of like, Himmel being so heroic, saying, let's not kill this demon. And then later, whenever
things go
wrong, Himmel is just like
this was a mistake.
And Frieren goes, you'll let me kill the demon now?
Yep.
Frieren and Stark leave to try to find a way to get Frieren out. Elsewhere, Graf Gannet, the chief of the town, tries to negotiate with Lugner, Lugner, leader of those demons, and the other two, Linnae and Droft. Graf does try to kill them. There's that moment where he's like, you think you're peace envoys, but I got you. But Lugner pulls a little deception, says, your son died. My dad died during this war. And Graf's like, all right, fine, I won't kill you. I'll think about this a little more. And when he walks away, the Linnaeus goes, What's a father? Yeah. And he goes, no idea. It's something humans care about.
Yeah.
And the episode ends with Droft sneaking into jail to kill the guard and confront Frieren. My only note here is that I have two. I love that Frieren is right about demons.
Yes.
Just love it. So, like, listeners, something you see in so many shows is that people will have a stigma or they'll think ill of a certain group of people. And then they're proven wrong. And don't get me wrong, like that sounds terrible when I say it like that.
That works with humans.
Yeah,
because it's like that's what the world's really like. It's like you judge people with a broad brush and then you're proven wrong because that's what happens when you paint people with a broad brush.
Yeah. So the point of this is not to say I don't think that this is teaching the lesson hey, it's okay to be racist. No, that's not the point. Frieren even explicitly states they're animals. They're actually animals who learn to speak so that they could deceive humans.
It's like the evolution was specifically in order to be predators to humans.
Yeah. I know this sounds wild and bad, but like it's such a cool twist.
The way that I think of it, rather than, because maybe something more helpful would be to consider other folklores that are similar. If you're big into folklore or like cryptids or stuff like that, it's like the difference between a mermaid and a siren. It's like a mermaid maybe used to be something human and it went back into the water and became, something distinct from humans. Sirens are not humans and they never were.
Yeah.
And they're not even mammals. It's like convergent evolution.
And the whole point of their being is to kill, to lure in humans and kill them.
They have evolved to appear like a human in order to lure people to eat them.
Yeah.
So it's more like in this world, demons are like sirens as opposed to just a misunderstood or maybe even like divergent version of a person.
I like that a lot. Yeah, it's a good take.
Thanks.
Thank you for that, Barry.
Off the dome.
No, that was really good. I like that. And then the other thing I liked was at the end when Droft sneaks in, or Drott, however you say his name. He goes, like Frieren says, I don't know if you could take me. I'm pretty strong. And Droft goes, how strong are you? And she's like,
never ask that question, by the way. It's like asking, you and what are me? And there's always an answer.
And Frieren goes, I'm stronger even than Ara the Guillotine.
Your boss, ho.
Also, it should be noted that Graf is actually like a title of nobility. So his real name is Granit, but I just, in my notes, kept writing his name as Graf. It's essentially like calling him Prince, or King. Okay. It's a German title for nobility.
Got it.
But
they would make it German.
Yeah. So anyway, episode 8, Frieren the Slayer. Episode opens up and Droft thinks he can take Frieren. She makes quick work of them though, busts out of jail. And when she sees the decapitated guard, she's like, oh, this could complicate things. Graf wakes up. Graf walks into the room where Lugner and Linnae are, the demons, and he's like, yo, where's your buddy? So the jig is up and they all fight, but Lugner whoops Graf and his men because, he's got cool blood control magic. He can turn his blood, like he can shoot it out of his body and manipulate it.
Himself.
Yeah, he's a bloodbender. So he tells Graf that he won't kill him though because he needs Graf to give him like the code to lower the protective barrier because there's a super awesome barrier that Flamma actually put years and years ago around the city. Fern and Stark run into Frieren, who was trying to sneak out of the village. You know, I love that she's just walking by them in a hood trying to hide herself. And they ask for her to help to defeat the demons. And Frieren's like, nah, y'all got it. And Frieren seemingly just leaves. The latter part of the episode is the heist, where Fern and Stark break into the castle, and Stark enters into the room where Groff has been tortured to get like the barrier's password. And he's about to free him when Lugner and Linnaeus show up, and Stark fights for a second, but it really was a distraction to give Fern an opening. And she's seen floating outside the window, and she wastes Lugner, just blasts him against the wall. It's a sick moment. Then Fern and Stark are like, all right, we'd love to finish this fight, but we got to run because Groff's about to die. So they grab Groff, roll out, and the episode ends with Frieren descending in front of Aura and her headless army. That shot is sick. Like, that's what's on a lot of the promotional material of Frieren just floating down.
Well, it's also one thing that I like regarding Fern is immediately after she takes the shot, the demons are like, we didn't even sense her. Where did she come from? Because one of the big things is you can detect people's mana. And so, you know, they were like, man, she really...
She could hide her mana.
She covered up her mana. And that's something which will come up later. But, you know, it was a cool little
in
intro.
episode 10, a few of my other notes about this episode. I love Stark getting his get back. And so what I mean there, listeners, is throughout the episode, Stark keeps having these moments of like he's afraid because when Lugner approached them the first time, when Frieren gets arrested, he doesn't even look at Stark. He just looks at Frieren alone. And then when
the thing that he thought the dragon did to him, you know, the demon actually did to him.
And then when Stark is in the when he's trying to set Groff free, the demon walks in and Groff kind of makes it an excuse for Stark and is just like, let him go. And Lugner just stays looking at Groff the whole time again. But in that moment, Stark steps in front of him, says, no, I'm here. Look at me. And Stark, we learn, he's a quick boy. And he jumps over and the demon's like, dang, he's kind of fast. Super fast.
Yep.
I also like, again, as you said, Fern is sneaky. So that's cool. And then we also get this through line throughout the episode of the demons questioning just how powerful Frieren is. Because again, up until this point, we have not seen her flex her stuff. She's only ever done these little spells, but we also know that she's part of the party that defeated the Demon King. Episode 9, Aura the Guillotine. We open at a church. Fern and Stark have taken Groff here to be healed by the priest. Groff says, my bad. Shouldn't have arrested Frieren. She was right. We get a quick flash to Frieren and Aura smack talking each other, and then we go back to the church. Groff tells us why Aura has been so tough to beat. You know, she has these things called the Scales of Obedience. So the Scales of Obedience, this really cool magical object that's explained in the episode, are this thing that Aura is able to take her soul and her opponent's soul, like the mana within them, put them on a scale, and whichever soul is stronger, has more mana, wins, and that person is able to like control and put their will over the loser. And Aura, this is a problem because Aura has a frick ton of mana. We flash again to Frieren. She's seen fighting the army of the beheaded soldiers, and her and Aura talk some more smack. There's a cool moment where Frieren like disperses that spell on some of the soldiers. And so like they're already dead and beheaded, so they kind of just fall apart.
Yeah.
But Aura
like
goes,
empty suits.
Yeah. But Aura's like, that must have taken a lot of mana though. Like at first she's kind of caught off guard, but she's like, that must have taken a lot of mana. You're being foolish. Back to Fern and Stark. He puts on a show of saying someone has to step up. You know, he's making it seem like he's going to go be the one to fight the demons. It's like somebody has to be responsible. They're telling him, don't go. He's like, somebody has to. And then he goes, I'm going to go beg Frieren to come back and save us.
That's funny.
Anyway, Fern and Stark steal their resolve and go to fight Lugner and Melee, and they meet on the castle ramparts. I'm kind of yada-yadaing here, but it's a sick fight. Fern faces Lugner and Stark Melee. Our heroes do win, but it's a close thing. So let's talk about this whole episode. My 4 notes. 1, the soldiers fighting back. So when Graf Grana is explaining how the scales of obedience work, we get a scene of them in action. And he says, sometimes though, like a soldier, even though their mana isn't powerful, their wills are so ironclad. And we see what is basically his son, like he's wearing the Grafgranit family crest, still able to move like very slowly when being controlled and fight against it. And that's why she starts beheading them. That's why she's called the guillotine, so she can like completely separate, I guess, their brains from them. But that's a cool moment. I really liked that moment of him still having that much resolve. Your moment, Stark's jacket.
Yeah. There's a famous animation clip of Stark putting on his jacket, and you can tell that before they did it, they actually videoed a real human being putting on a real jacket and then just animated in line with it. It looks so good.
It's so sick.
Yes.
Freaking love it. Then the other note, Fern is fast as frick. So again, I just yada-yada'd through the fight, but Fern is able to defeat this super powerful demon.
And she's so chill the whole time. It's so funny. Like, she's not a very emotional person. She's not expressive. And this whole time, at no point does she seem afraid. Even when she had just gotten injured and is bleeding slightly and is in a very vulnerable position, she's just like expressionless, just waiting.
Yeah, because the demon,
confident.
The demon says, "I've studied magic my whole life," and she's like, "Big whoop, me too."
Yeah.
Like she is just fast as frick. The animation is incredible, but what ends up happening is Lugner thinks he has her because he knows all this advanced magic. Like, what do you even know, Fern? She's like,
basic defensive magic.
I got Zoltrak. And he's like, just Zoltrak? But she goes, no, check this out. And it's basically like machine gun rapid fire.
Yeah.
He's like, holy frick. She's using such a
mana.
Yeah, and she's using such a simple spell, but it's just bombarding me. And
her defensive methods are the same. So like the way that Frieren had taught her, where she just is very precise about where she props up defensive magic to block individual attacks because it's more efficient for mana that way.
I love the animation when she's just blasting the spell super quick, and her hair, like her face is stone cold, but her hair just keeps blowing back with each one. Wind. Oh, it's sick. So she just destroys him. And Stark's fight,
not as easy.
Melee is able to like copy people's mana. And in the way they fight, she at one time had seen Ison fight. And so she's copying how Ison the warrior fights, who is Stark's master. And she basically whoops Stark for the first like 2/3 of the fight. The reason Stark is able to win, though, he has this cool flashback where Ison just tells him, if you're ever in a fight with a powerful enemy, the way you beat them is you just keep getting up.
Yeah.
You just keep getting up over and over and over. At one point, she's faster than him and we don't know how he's going to win. She goes to hit him in the side with an axe and he just lets her because she's like, he's going to block and then I'll like do something, but he doesn't block. He just lets her. She's like, why didn't you block? And he goes, your attacks have no weight behind them because she's tiny.
Yeah.
And so it was a very shallow cut. And then he just does the lightning strike on her and kills her. But that's the end of the episode. Yay! Episode 10, A Powerful Mage. I titled this one Flashback and Fight. In this episode, we get a lot of flashbacks to Frieren and Flamma's time together. We see them meet when Flamma finds Frieren as a young elf and the sole survivor of a demon attack. That scene is sick with the giant demon. Like there's that trail of magic that had led up to the demon's defeat, and his name is Basalt, and he's up against a tree defeated. We also watch Flamma murk 3 great demons like it's no problem, and we learned that one of the most important things Flamma ever taught Frieren was to control her mana. This is so that whenever they fight demons, they can trick them. And we kind of learn more about how demons work. We learn that demons are basically show-offs with their own hierarchy. There's that scene where Flamma explains to Frieren, humans show off their importance by the clothes they wear, the statuses that they have like that. But demons, they do it by flexing their mana. Yeah. Whoever has the most mana is at the top of the food chain.
That's the hierarchy.
And so that's why a demon would think it's inconceivable to hide your mana because, well, that immediately makes you lesser if you don't have as much.
I think the analogy they listed was like a noble or a king wearing peasant's clothes.
Yeah. Like, well, there's no
it's like
point.
You lose all authority that you couldn't,
Yeah. And so the way you get power as a demon, by showing how strong your mana is, and they don't care for weak little demons, so this is how we can beat them. Frieren has one last flashback with Flamma, and it's very sweet. Flamma's getting old, and she looks at Frieren and she's like, dang, you've gotten pretty good at concealing your mana, because she told her to make it like a 10th of what the output is, and as you get older,
it's been like decades at that point.
And she tells Frieren to keep up your mana training, stay out of the limelight, like don't make yourself a big deal, and one day you may be able to defeat the Demon King. And it's not explained there, but I think that's the same reasoning as concealing your mana. Become a great mage, but to yourself, not to the world, so that one day when you do fight the Demon King, he won't know how incredibly powerful you are.
Yeah. And there's a big thing about like the demons develop the ability to speak in order to deceive humans. This is our Uno reverse.
Yeah. That's a good point. It's a great point.
Because they acknowledge, or Flamma acknowledges, like, this is deceptive, and many would even consider it cowardly. The demons certainly would. But who cares?
Yeah, who cares?
They're animals. I don't care. It's like when you go hunting, it's like you're wearing camouflage. Does that make you a coward, or does it make you an efficient hunter? Yeah.
So basically guerrilla warfare.
Yeah.
And then the flashback with Flamma ends. I love it. She says, when I die, could you plant some flowers by my grave? And she teaches Frieren her favorite spell, which is the one that creates the field of flowers that we've seen Frieren do so many times now. Back in the present, Aura casts the spell to use the scales of obedience on Frieren. And the show kind of makes you think that Frieren loses for a second, and she thinks that Aura thinks that Aura has won. But nope, Frieren bosses out, because she says that one line of like, you are a great mage who's lived for 500 years. I'm a great mage who's lived for 1,000 years.
Yeah.
And Frieren, she was concealing her mana, and then it explodes and covers like half the battlefield. You can kind of see her literal aura all around her.
And I love the way that they animate Aura's eyes. It's like her pupils just kind of like, I don't know. It's like the way that you look, if you ever did that experiment as a kid where you get milk and then like dish soap and food coloring, and you like drop the dish soap in and it like disperses out the color. It's like multiple layers of that, and it's cool. It's a cool animation.
Yeah. And so then we get the scene that basically changed this anime for a lot of people. And this is why we say you got to make it through the first 10 episodes, because this is when
you can get representation of the action and like what the action's capable of.
So in this moment, Frieren has now taken control of Aura, and she just says, Aura, kill yourself. And one of my favorite parts is when Aura puts the sword to her neck. The sword is so daggum sharp that chunks of her hair are falling
and
to the ground.
Off first.
Oh, sick.
Good touch.
And then like the way they animate it is it shifts to Aura's perspective. Like you're looking through her eyes at Frieren. And whenever she cuts her head off, like you're seeing out of her eyes as her head falls. Oh, it's
so you don't actually see the beheading, but it's like
it's heavy as frick. Like it's a metal scene. One thing I want to point out about this episode that I really liked too, that I didn't cover in that recap, was I love the flashback to the hero party whenever they first come upon Frieren, and Himmel first is trying to recruit Frieren.
Yeah.
And
she's concealing her mana.
But because it's an allusion to earlier when Frieren says to Flamma, like, I know you're a great mage. And Flamma goes, how do you know that? Just a hunch. Well, later when the hero party comes upon Frieren just collecting flowers or whatever she's doing in the woods, Himmel goes, Hyder, what do you think? She goes, she seems kind of mid. Like she doesn't have that much power. I have more mana than she does. Frieren goes, so yeah, move along then. What do you need me for? And Himmel says, I know you're a great mage. How do you know that? Just a hunch. And it makes her smile. Love it. Moving on now to episode 11, Winter in the Northern Lands, another two-parter. I said, low-key, we can just kind of glance over the first part because it's a wrap-up. The townspeople in Graf thank Frieren and Fern and Stark for saving them. And I do love it, though. It's quick here, but they just have a good time just talking and hanging out for a few days, celebrating with the townspeople. My notes on the first half of this episode is, 1, I love the moment when Graf recognizes his son. Because when he shows up to see the field of all the bodies, he's looking around and he's just like, hey, Frieren, thanks. And the people show him, his men find his son's body. And he goes from being like, thanks to, thank you so much. Like this was huge. I'm glad to know he's at rest now. He's no longer being manipulated. I also love that they stay. Because in so many anime and TV shows, movies, whatever, when the heroes do something, they're like, nah, we got to get out of here. But I love that they're like, yeah, all right. Yeah, let's hang out. Let's chill. We also learn here, this is the big MacGuffin for the rest of this season, that one of them needs to become a first-class mage,
and
certified.
To be allowed to travel there. Right?
Yeah. So at one point, in order to go to the northern lands, like the furthermost area, it's so dangerous. You have to have a first-class mage with you, certified by the Continental Magical Association. And I love that Frieren goes, what the heck is that even? Like, I have this, and she shows them her old badge that they're like, that's a relic.
That's an antique.
Yeah, you need a new one. So part 2.
And I did like the little jab at bureaucracy that she makes of just like, if I were to try to stay up to date on every sort of certification that I'm supposed to have as a mage, I would be having to do that like every 2 years because humans are so finicky about like what it, the logistics of being, I guess, valid.
Part 2, they journey on. They try to make it through the mountains, but it is way too snowy, and they have to find a place to hunker down in. Luckily, they come across a cabin with an elf doing squats inside it to stay warm.
First time we've seen another elf.
Yeah. I love that he just looks at them, doesn't stop squatting. Yeah. He still turns his head and is like, sup, Fern wants to find someplace else, but Stark is quite actually about to die from cold. So they stay and let Stark and the elf, Croft, by the way, that's his name, Croft, huddle together for warmth. And that's a funny scene of him having that dream and waking up next to Croft. And to make a long story short, they stay there for about 6 months, getting to know each other, hanging out till the snows melt. And yeah, that's most of the episode. Now, I know again, yada, yada, that, but we're going to talk about it. 3 main thoughts from this. One is I remember you always highlight this, the prayer montage.
Yeah.
So Croft is a priest. He's an elf, but he's also a priest. And there's a montage of their 6 months together that begins with Croft praying and Fern praying with him.
Like before a meal.
Yeah.
It's like the blessing before food. So like the first clip is him and then Fern doing it. And Fern was raised by a priest, so it makes sense that she'd be respectful in that way. Or we don't really know if it's like she was just being respectful or if she actually believes, in the same way. And then meanwhile, Stark and Frieren, I think
they're just eating.
Yeah, they're just already digging in. And then in the next clip, Stark has joined them. Frieren is still just digging in. And then the last one is all 4 of them are praying now.
And I love that. I love the influence one person can have on those around them.
Yes.
And the communal aspect of people becoming like each other.
And it is cool too because what's his name? Croft?
Croft.
Yeah, Croft is older than Frieren. Like you can tell that he's more of an aged elf. Even though they're immortal, you can see that there's kind of like wrinkles around his eyes and he's very slow to speak.
Yeah, I love that scene when like my other note for this episode was I love that we finally get to see 2 elves together. And I love the moment when he goes, so Frieren, what have you done? And it's not a mean question either. He's like genuinely asking. She goes, I was part of the party that defeated the Demon King. And he goes, okay, what about before that?
He's like, that was like 5 seconds ago.
Yeah. I love that.
Yeah.
We also have, this is one of the things, there's 2 key moments I want to talk about in the rest of this episode. This is one of them. The Heiter flashback. So Croft and Frieren, at one point during their 6-month stay, are talking about the goddess. Again, listeners, in this world, it's not like a great god over the universe. It's a goddess. And she's like, hey, you're an elf. You've lived a long time. why do you believe in the goddess?
Yeah.
Like we haven't, in all our years, we haven't seen like concrete proof that she exists. So why do you believe in?
Which makes sense
her?
also for an elf to ask, because when you're immortal, you don't have that sort of like motivation to consider things like the afterlife in the same way that humans might.
Yeah. And again, like I'm a Christian. I have plenty of reasons for why I believe in my faith and my religion. We both do. But I do love the simplicity of this. And we won't expound too much here, but it's sweet. He basically is just like, well, it would be really cool if it was true.
Yeah.
You know, I love one of the things you often, or you have said to me before, is like in our religion, you know, it's one of the cool things is the Christian God in many ways is so wonderful. At least there's listeners, if you're not a Christian, you might not get this, and I'm not trying to offend you with our beliefs, but the way that we have come to understand the Christian God is that there's nothing better.
Yeah, he's
than this
best
God.
case scenario.
Yeah, it's the best version of what can
be. If God is going to be real, then the best case scenario of what he could be like is the Christian God.
Yeah. And I don't want to offend any listeners who might not think that way. Again, we have our reasons for thinking that. And I love one of the things our pastor says is, tell me about the God you don't believe in, because I probably don't believe in him either.
Right.
Anyway, a little tangent there, but I love that moment where he's just like, it'd just be really cool if it was true. And he asks to hear Frieren's story so he can be a person to remember her, you know? And I'm glad you pulled it up because this is the one part of the wiki I wanted to read. Shout out to the Frieren wiki. Help me take notes for all this. Croft then changes the subject, asking Frieren to tell him about her. If she does not believe in the goddess, he will honor her himself. This causes Frieren to recall a memory of when she was traveling with the hero party. In the flashback, Himmel and Eisen were surrounded by happy children while Frieren sat at a table talking to Heiter. Frieren said she never imagined Heiter would donate towards the reconstruction of an orphanage, so the fact that he did surprised her. Heiter told Frieren that he was also an orphan, and he believed that the goddess would honor him for living purely and righteously. Frieren disagreed with this and asked what the corrupt priest is saying while getting drunk. Heiter suddenly asked her if she had anyone to honor her, and she asked why. Heiter explained that it seemed that she does not believe in the goddess, and that if she told him about herself, he will honor her in the goddess's place.
A little note here, the word that they're using in the wiki is honor. In the English dub, the word that they use is praise.
Yeah.
So, like, that's kind of maybe a helpful synonym in this case. Like, who will praise you?
Yeah. And I like, you know, Frieren says, I haven't done anything praiseworthy in my life because they hadn't defeated the Demon King yet. And Heiter goes, I don't know. You've been limiting your mana all your life, and that's pretty impressive. And she's like, I'm surprised you noticed. But one of the things I really loved about this scene is that, again, as a Christian, I thought this was incredibly powerful because we are called to love everybody in our religion, to be helpful, to be kind, and to extend friendship. And like listeners, if you have had I'm actually not if, I know many of you have probably had poor experiences with other Christians, or with, like, if you are a Christian, you've probably had bad experiences with other Christians. If you aren't one, you've probably had bad experiences with Christians anyway. But like what we're taught is to be loving and to be kind. And I love here that like the lesson is that the goddess of this world honors and praises other people. And Heiter basically says, since you don't believe in her and she's not doing that for you, I'll be that one. Yeah, I will be God for you, but like in a loving way, not in a commanding way. And that just that hits me deep. It hits me also, personally. Yeah. Because we're supposed to do this. If somebody does not know God, we are meant, if they do not know God's love, we are meant to show them that love.
Yeah, it makes me think of when Jesus says, if you did this thing for the least of these, you did it for me. But it's also like, you know, some people look at the suffering in the world and it's like, there's a hungry child, you know, then how could there be a good God? There are hungry children. And it's like, well, did you feed them?
Yeah.
It's like, because you are the hands and feet of God. That's kind of the idea. And so it's like, you know, if the work of God isn't being done,
that's our fault.
Look to yourself.
That's our fault.
Right.
Yeah.
And so, you know,
powerful lessons in this show. Love it. Episode 12, A Real Hero. One of my favorites. In this one, they travel to the village, and this is part 1 of the episode, another 2-parter. They travel to the village of the sword, a place where the fabled sword of the hero was, wink, wink, stuck in the rock, and Himmel pulled it out and was like super cool for it. Frieren says they have to stop by because she promised the village chief that she'd come by every 50 years to clear out monsters. So, she's only like 32 years late.
It's a very common trope of like, I've got an appointment. I've got to go do this thing that I'm scheduled to do every 50 years.
Big twist of the story, though, is that at the end of this part of the episode, we learned that the sword is actually still in the cave and that Himmel never pulled it out. Mm-hmm. So let's talk about some of our favorite moments of this episode, or at least the first half. First is Stark trying to carry Frieren. Mm-hmm. I laugh every time because he's genuinely wanting to do a kind thing of carry Frieren, and Frieren just goes, "You're a pervert." And he's like, "What are you even talking about? I'm trying to be helpful." And then we get the obvious through line of Himmel. We get the flashback of him with the replica of the sword. And he says, "One day I'll get the real one and be a real hero." Mm-hmm. And then the moment when he fails to pull out the sword, like you can see all of his friends looking at him like, "Buddy, we're so sorry." Mm-hmm. And he, puts his chin up and says, "It doesn't matter that I failed. Mm-hmm. I will defeat the Demon King anyway, and it won't matter that I'm a fake hero. If I can do all that, I'm fine being a fake hero."
One thing that I really liked about this, because obviously it's a play on the Arthurian legends of like pulling the sword from the stone, and you can only do it if you're worthy and all that. But I'm reading through Le Morte d'Arthur right now. I'm not very far, but one of the things that's really funny is the sword that Arthur pulls from the stone when he's a kid that makes him king. First of all, that's not even Excalibur. He gets Excalibur a different way later. But that's not the only magical sword in that world and in that story where only the worthiest person can obtain it. There's an incident at court where this lady shows up and she's got a sword, and I think it's just in a sheath, but the idea is like only the worthiest person here can
pull it
out. Yes. And Arthur, who at this point is king, or, he's getting England unified so that he can be king of all of it, he's not worthy. He can't pull it out. And there's multiple swords like this, multiple magical swords throughout the whole Arthurian legend. And Arthur is not always the worthiest person. And I think that's really funny because it's like, he's still the hero of the Arthurian legends. And he still goes on to do great things, but it's like, there are other people whose roles in the story require that they are the most worthy person.
Well, what I find really encouraging about that is, like, even for Arthur, you don't have to be the best all the time.
Yes.
You don't have to be able to be the greatest hero, to do everything. Like, you can still do great.
You can only hold one sword at a time anyway. Yeah.
That's not true. You can hold 2.
Oh, shut up. But you get what I mean. It's like...
Or you're Killer Bee and you can hold 7.
Well, because it makes sense.
Naruto reference, everybody.
Yeah, it makes sense. One person isn't allowed to be the most worthy because, especially with the metaphor of a sword, because it's like they only have 2 hands. They can't wield every sword because then only a couple of them will actually end up being effective. Mm-hmm. It's like the
other swords will be useless.
Yes. It's like if all of the swords belong to you, then that means that most of them will be useless for actually benefiting others, which is cool. So
the other note about this episode, the village chief is funny. It's this little girl who
inherited it.
She is the 49th village chief of this village. And there's a few times that she even like cusses at Frieren. She goes, "My grandma told me to say that to you whenever you finally show up." It's really sweet. Part 2 is Stark's birthday. Yeah. They make it to another town and chill out, but Frieren is like, "Oh yeah, it's Stark's birthday." Frierin's like, "Why the frick didn't you tell me sooner?" And, I wrote LOL Frieren's gift. If you know, you know. Yeah. But Fern goes around trying to find Stark to ask him what he'd want. And I love this montage. She walks around the village trying to ask people, "Hey, have you seen him?" And he's helped everybody. One lady's like, "He helped push my cart across the street." Another one, he went up a tree and got my cat. He played ball with us.
The most like Superman, almost like Mr. Incredible.
Yeah. She finally finds him, and he's just looking at clouds being silly. I love when he goes, I need to tell Fern about these clouds. And she's like, why would I care? But she finds him and asks him what he wants. And he's shocked, though, because he's like, no one's ever gotten me a present before. And we get his backstory. We learn that his brother Rocked was like the strongest warrior in the village and cared a lot about Stark, his little brother. But Stark's dad didn't care much at all about Stark. At the end of the flashback, his brother dies protecting him as he runs away. And Stark says, I'm afraid that I'll run away again in a moment of need. And Fern goes like, Frieren and I won't let you do that. I only know you for who you are now, not who you were. And she buys him a bracelet, and Frieren makes Stark a steak because that's what warriors get on their birthday. So my only note for this part is I just love Stark. I love how wholesome he is. I love, that he has this flawed past. I say flawed past. Dude was a child.
Yeah.
He was a child. And I love that he's maturing and growing up. And we get like little bits of kind of budding romance between Stark and Fern. Moving on, episode 13, Aversion to One's Own Kind. This is the episode where Sign joins the party. So this episode opens with Frieren talking to a priest stuck in a mud pit. And I love the moment where he's telling her his background, his story. And she goes like, why are you telling me this? He goes, well, I regretted not taking the hand of my friend all those years ago who invited me on a journey. And that's my biggest regret. Your biggest regret might be not taking my hand right now to pull me out of the mud. But she's like, I can't remember the spell to pull you out. Ultimately, Fern shows up, reprimands Frieren, and saves Sign. And they take him to his village. He's like, all right, thanks. I owe y'all big time. Deuces. And they part ways. He also warns them not to get bit by a snake. So the next thing that happens is Stark gets bit by a snake.
Naturally.
Right outside the town. And
deadly snake.
Yeah. So they fly him back and they take him to the priest. And it's a different priest than Sign. And the priest goes, ooh, I don't know if I can save him. I think he's done for. His brain's definitely going to turn to liquid and just like melt.
And he's not kidding.
No, he's not.
It's like at first you think that it might be just like a joke for the show. But
I love the animation of Frieren and Fern in the background. Like they're like cute little faces and like scared faces holding each other. I like that moment. But before he dies, though, who comes out from the back of the church? It's Sign. And we get this through line throughout the episode, an odd bit of tiny objects in the church. He goes, brother, this bathtub is way too small. And he's holding like a wooden bucket in his hand that literally is smaller than his hand.
I know that we were kind of confused on like the meaning of that bit. I think it's supposed to be that they're so frugal and like trying to be not wasteful. And
I mean, that's absolutely what it is. But it still was like a bit much. But
yeah.
Because later he walks in with another thing that's way too tiny. He's like, this won't work.
It wasn't like a pickaxe or something.
Yeah.
It's like a toothpick.
But he walks in, and apparently he is sick with goddess magic. Yes. And it's also noted, listeners here, that goddess magic is different than regular magic. It's better at healing, and like more nature stuff. It's a bit different, and that gets explained more so in an episode. I think episode 15 or 16.
Yeah,
so.
I will say though, I do like that Frieren can't just fix it herself. It's like a cool little thing of, oh no, this isn't the sort of magic that I can do. This requires something holy, which considering it's a snake bite, it's like, again, very Western as far as like religion and all that mythology.
So Sign heals Stark, and the rest of the episode is them trying to convince him to join their party because they're like, you know what? We got a warrior, we got a mage, we could use a priest. So join us. And he just keeps saying, no, I had my chance to leave town years ago and I didn't do it. I have to stay here now. There's several humorous attempts of them trying to convince him. We get the funny moment where we learn that he likes older ladies. Yeah. And that's when Frieren goes, well, you're in luck.
One of those.
Yeah, he's like, you're in luck. I'm the oldest lady that you'll ever find because she's over 1,000 years old. He's like, you don't look like an older lady.
Yeah.
But she goes, you've forced me to pull out like my seductive trick that my master taught me. And she really just blows him a kiss. And when it doesn't work, She goes, maybe you're just too young to get it, Sonny.
Yeah.
I love that she calls him Sonny.
And she's like, man, when I did that on Himmel, it like
worked like a
out.
charm. That is one of my favorite scenes because it flashes to that moment. Himmel's on the ground and freaking Hiker, what did you do? And Ison, you wicked woman.
Yeah.
But then we learned that he stayed in town, Sign has stayed in town this whole time because a long time ago, Heiter offered Sign's older brother a chance to leave the town with him. But his older brother said, listen, we've lost our parents and all of our family. This town is all that Sign knows. I'm going to stay here for him because that's what he needs. And I love this. This, again, an incredible moment. Sign's older brother walks up to him. He's like, is that really the reason? Yeah, of course that's the reason. And he slaps him. He slaps his younger brother and he just says, like, basically, shame on you. My reasons were completely different. I love that he goes, I have never regretted my decision. Can you say the same? Because Sign is basically wasting away in this town.
Yeah.
He's not pursuing his dreams. But it was Sign's older brother's dream to do what he's doing now. He's like, it's completely different. So I love that.
We are different people. Like, you should, you know.
And so the episode essentially ends with Sign later saying, like, walking up to them at the river. And he's like, I made up with my brother. And so I'm going to go with y'all. Sweet. Notes. I love that Stark is happy now that he has a friend. You know, there's that moment
another
where
guy in the group.
Yeah, and Fern insults him. And Stark goes, like, welcome to the party. You know, something like that. What else? Yeah, like, it should also be noted that Sign says the reason he's traveling with them is because he's looking for his friend who left him all those years ago.
Like 5 years?
Yeah. And he's like, if I come across him or get wind of him, they're going a different way, you know, we're going to have to part. They're like, all right, no worries. And then we get that line that's repeated several times. Don't dwell on the past when you have the present. So episode 14. This is the last one, listeners. It's called A Privilege of the Young, and it's a two-parter.
And there's also a song in the original soundtrack named after this episode, and it's a really good one.
Ooh, we'll check it out.
Yeah.
So Privilege of the Young, part 1. Fern gets mad at the boys for forgetting her birthday, and she fights with Stark and he storms out, saying, like, you know what, I'm done. After talking to Sign a few times, though, she does finally go and make up with Stark, and it's really sweet. Frieren and Sign spy on the kids from the roof, and Sign is like, why didn't Fern ask you for advice? And Frieren says, again, I don't people well. But when Sign calls Frieren a kid, she retorts that, you know, he views Heiter as an adult, and he was like super immature. This prompts my favorite moment of the whole season. So Frieren has a flashback of Heiter. And oh my gosh, listeners, if you don't do anything else I ever ask you, watch this scene. I loved it so much. She remembers a moment with Heiter, and Heiter's old, you know, and he's starting to age a good bit. And long story short, something is said like that. She goes, Heiter, you've grown quite dignified in your old age. And he goes, yeah, it's just a trick. Like, I'm faking it.
I'm still a kid.
Yeah, my mind is still young, and I think it's always going to be that way. Well, Heiter, then why are you being mature? And he's like, honestly, I do it because that's what Fern needs. Yeah, children need adults who are responsible, who take care of them, who love and praise them. That's what children need. And so if that's what I can do for Fern, then I will go on my whole life just faking it, just pretending. And then Frieren goes, but who will praise you? You know, if you're praising her, who's going to praise you? And then he says, I suppose that's what the goddess is for. And then she's like, don't worry, I'll praise you too. And she pats his head, and it's a really sweet moment. I cried. I cried at this scene. It's so meta. It's so wonderful for a lot of reasons we've already talked about, but it's just such a powerful moment. And I love that idea of, like, I'm 28 now. So old, right?
Yeah.
But I love the idea of, like, no, you never really do mature completely or even that much. But there are things you just do because people need you to. We're about to have a baby. And my dad always said to me, when you get married, it's not about you. When you have kids, it's really not about you. And I loved like, I love thinking about that when our baby's born, being like, if this podcast never becomes amazing, if I never become a super successful pastor who like converts a lot of people or helps a lot of people, like, honestly, nothing matters as much as making sure that my wife and daughter have a roof over their heads and their stomachs filled with food. Like, people can think I'm lame. People can think I'm dumb. People can think I'm all these other things. As long as those things are taken care of, my wife and daughter, who cares? Like, ultimately, I've done the thing I need to do. And so I loved that scene so much.
Yeah.
So much. And then also for the goddess part too, of like, all the affirmation I really need, I have in God. So I'm good to go.
Yeah.
Love it.
Yeah, I really like how, and this is one of the reasons why this show I think feels so different, not just from other anime, but certainly from most Western media. It's like the concept of finding the answer to your self-esteem or to your purpose or anything. It's found in your heart. It's found, like, you know, do your own soul searching and find yourself and like all that stuff. Be the source of your own purpose and your own value. That's a very Western idea, but this show doesn't play that game. It's like, no, your purpose in this world is directly connected to your relationship with other people. And you cannot just be like a floating cell or atom even out on your own. It's like, that's what Frieren's learning not to do. And it's like, if you want to have purpose, if you want to even find who you really are, become the best version of you that you can be, that requires you to be with others, because that's where responsibility is. That's where service is.
It's great stuff.
Yeah, it is. And it's very rare that you see that nowadays in media. So
part 2, the missing ring. In this portion of the episode, our heroes travel in a wagon through the woods when Frieren sees the bracelet Stark got Fern. Oh, I should also note that in the previous part, Stark was like, I didn't forget that it was your birthday. I just wanted to kind of do the thing you did with me of going and getting a present together. And he like actually means it. And they make up and it's sweet. But when Frieren sees the bracelet that Stark got Fern, she's like, ooh, Himmel gave me a ring that matches that. And she goes to pull it out of her briefcase. But as she's doing so, the wagon is picked up by a big old monster. And as they fly through the air, Frieren says, don't worry, y'all. I got this. And she jumps out like freaking Mission Impossible style, blasts this like dragon bird's head off, and kills it. Good news, bird is dead. Bad news, the wagon begins to fall. But more good news, they use magic at the last moment to save everybody, so like the crash isn't that bad. More bad news though, Frieren lost the ring in the incident. They spend a few days fixing the wagon, putting it back together, and every night Frieren is sneaking off and going out searching for her ring. And I love that moment when Fern finds her. And it's like, what are you doing? And whenever Frieren says, I'm just looking for the ring that Himmel gave, you know, Frieren's like the voice actor goes from a tone of like, what are you doing? To, oh my goodness.
Like, yeah, Fern.
Yeah, Fern's voice actress. Like, it actually shows concern about that.
Yeah.
On the last night, the merchant who owns the wagon is like, you should have told me something. And it's very video gamey, you said, of him like, I have a spell that helps you find missing jewelry. I will say, though, you can critique it all you want, but it does make sense given his line of work. Because that's even what he says. Yeah. He goes, given my that I'm a merchant, people often come to me, like he's a like a pawn salesman. And he's like, given my line of work, people often ask me to find lost jewelry. So anyway, Frieren casts the spell and then she finds the ring and we get the epic flashback of Himmel and her walking around. She said that Himmel got her this ring for a job well done. Well, they're at the shop together, or they're walking like through a market and outside. On this cobbled street. It's a beautiful scene. You've probably seen this in reels and social media, commercials, whatever. But Frieren just points to a ring and Himmel says, yeah, actually that will be great.
Well, at first he's like, you should be more like, because he didn't even really notice which one she pointed to. He was just focused on how quickly she picked. And he was like, you should really think about it. And then he looks at what she had pointed to and he's like, actually.
Yeah, and that's
this
important.
Is perfect.
That's important because, you know, we learned that the butterfly or
flower.
Yeah, the flower on it is it represents eternal love in flower language. And Frieren goes, "Huh, I don't think Himmel even knew," but it was like,
yeah,
he
definitely
knew.
did. Yeah.
So he gets the ring and they're walking along, and then it's the epic slow-mo, the noise of the cape flapping, all that when he gets down on a knee.
Put it on her fingers.
Yes, he grabs her hand. The music is beautiful. I love she kind of looks like shocked, and he puts the ring on. He's basically proposing. Oh, it's a magical moment.
It is, and it's also probably the first moment where it actually feels genuinely romantic instead of it just being kind of like a bit.
Yeah,
you know?
like a one-sided thing.
Yeah, of like, because before that point, you could tell that Himmel kind of was like crushing on her, but it was treated in a very childish sort of way.
It wasn't sweet. It wasn't mature.
It's certainly not two-sided. But that one was the first moment where Frieren seemed to kind of like, be
caught off guard a little.
Yes. Yeah.
And so then the episode ends with they're all riding in the wagon together. There's been this whole side plot, like B plot of the episode of Sign, Stark, and Fern talking about the flower bracelet and that it's the sign for eternal love. And when there's that moment where Fern, whenever they learn that, they say, "Fern, do you want Stark to get a new bracelet for you?" She goes, "No. He went to a lot of effort to pick it out, so I'm going to keep it." It's like, oh, she likes it. But at the end of the episode, Frieren says, "So why did Stark get you that?" And he basically goes, "Because Stark's an idiot."
Yeah.
And he's like, "What did I do?" And then really my only note for this part is I like Frieren not knowing how much the ring means to her. It clearly means the world to her. Like she loves it and treasures it. And she tries to brush it off and say like, we'll leave it then. But everybody else kind of knows, no, that's important to you.
Yeah. She's just so not self-aware. Like and maybe it's an elf thing, but she just doesn't really realize, I guess, how focused her emotions are at any given moment on anything because it's so transient to her. So being focused on something for days and days and days doesn't seem like that big of a deal to her. But to everybody else, they're like, "You've been looking for this thing for days now. Like you've been going without sleep and all of that."
Okay, so the last thing we want to talk about here, we do want to mention and highlight the opening theme and the closing theme. So the opening theme, it's called The Brave by Yoasobi. Beautiful song. Love it. Need to highlight it here because we can't do it the next episode because it changes.
Yeah.
But it's sort of a song. I won't read the lyrics, but it kind of, again, captures the vibe of the show. Like the opening theme, it's all these blue colors and it's nice.
It's poppy.
It's poppy and it's not fantastical. Yeah, it's very J-pop, but the lyrics are very meaningful.
So I never looked at the lyrics.
Yeah, I probably should read some of them. So the lyrics are meaningful. You can read it on the website, the wiki, or Google it. But like a fairy tale, it's a sign the story has reached its end, like a single passage taken from a journey that was too long, of the evil that once cast a shadow across this land and the memories of the short journey with the hero who defeated it. I mean, it's basically just saying what happens in the show.
Yeah, it's like you can tell it was written for the show.
Just the same, your words and wishes and courage are still inside of me, and they live on. We choose the same path. That's all it was supposed to be. Why is it that at some point I want to understand the reason for the tears that fall down my cheeks, even now? If I retrace the journey we walk together, even though you're not there, I know I'll be able to find it. Oh, it's beautiful. So, and again, it's Barry. That's me. It's very in line with what happens in the show. But I will say tonally, the vibe of the song is not.
Right.
Unlike, and this isn't anything against it, love the opening, but unlike the ending theme, this ending theme.
To tell you how perfect it is. So the season is split into halves. The first half of the song is the outro for the first half of the season. And then the second half of the song gets its own separate animated closing.
And the animated closing for core 2, part 2 is
so good.
Even better. But so we'll
not
going to spoil it. But this song, Anytime, Anywhere by
Mile,
I think that's how you say her name. Listeners, first of all, the Japanese version is already beautiful.
Yes.
But what makes it, if you have the lyrics pulled up with it, you will cry. It is the most beautiful thing in the world. Essentially, and I told you this, to me, this is the most romantic thing you could ever say to somebody. Mm-hmm. The lyrics in this song say, essentially, like if I were to die and I got to be reborn at any moment, anywhere in history, I would want to do this whole life over again with you. That's magical. Mm-hmm. That's beautiful. I love it so much. I went around YouTube finding English versions of the song so I could hear the English lyrics.
Because the English translation of the Japanese is a little awkward. So a lot of people have taken great pains to fixing it up so that they can.
Yeah. So I found a few different versions. I have a whole playlist on YouTube of 5 different English versions of this song that there are some days I listen to it for like an hour or 2 in a row. I love it so much. Most beautiful song. It was my favorite from last year. But yeah, so that wraps up our coverage of part 1 of season 1 of Frieren. A bit of a longer episode, but I hope you guys enjoyed it. We will cover part 2 that will hopefully come out next week, unless my wife gives birth. Then we won't do it then.
Take it back a little.
I'll take it back a little bit, but we'll try to get it out. I don't know what day this episode will come out yet, but I mean, you guys will know. It'll be out. But anyway, like I said, I really wanted to do this because we just love anime. We love this story, and we like reliving it and sharing it with you guys.
We're excited for season 2.
So excited for season 2. And our season 2 coverage, like I said, going to be different. We won't do these super long episodes talking about everything, but we will do like retellings like I normally do for 2 episodes at a time.
Yeah.
But anyway, that's all we got because it's been forever. So,
Well, and there's a lot of anime coming out in January of this month. So, and we are considering discussing some of the other ones too. So if there's any that you want.
Yeah, that's important to know.
Yeah.
Like I want to do Frieren first, but I'm considering starting
many things.
Yeah, I'm considering starting a Patreon because the podcast is kind of decent size now, at least by my standards. And so we want to talk about so many other anime, like
Hell's Paradise,
Apothecary Diaries, mention those things.
Probably some of the more mature anime we would keep to the Patreon.
And that's important to me because I am a pastor, and there's some things that it's not that
it's not for kids.
It's not for kids. It's not that I don't think that like a pastor can't watch these things, but I do think that there should be a little more nuance to it,
and certainly
and the reflections on them.
And certainly it should have a little bit more of a barrier for anyone stumbling on it. An adult can make a Patreon account and listen to something on Patreon, as opposed to anyone who's younger can have a Spotify and find something.
So Harry Potter episodes every single week, anime every other week. Love you guys. Goodbye.
Bye.